I found out why I fell.
Whoa, what?
Pretty big deal. Not a big deal. I'm healthy. That's good. Okay, I downloaded it. Went to my cardiologist today, and my blood pressure after eating and having a cup of coffee was 90/54. So 50 and below is like not good.
Right.
Bottom number. So he saw that and he goes, looks like from your chart, you've lost some weight. You've lost like 20 pounds. And I said, yeah. He said, when did that start? I said, December. He said, so you lost in 9 months, you lost 20 pounds. I was like, well, actually, I lost 18 pounds in 3 months and then 2 more in the next month. But I've been holding steady now since like April. And he goes, okay, here's what's going on. Your blood pressure is naturally low. It's normally like 110/60, 110/65. That's fine. But when it gets in the 50s, it's really low. So if you've eaten breakfast, had a cup of coffee, driven over the hill already this morning, that tells me that you lost weight, that losing weight in that time period, your body hasn't figured out where to get its blood sugar. Because you took a reserve. You took 20 pounds of fat, which was blood sugar reserve. That's where it would draw blood sugar from. So if you have low blood pressure and your blood sugar drops, the first thing that drops is that bottom number in your blood pressure. So now you don't have the fat and your body hasn't normalized. You should have lost that weight over the course of a year, but you lost it too fast, and now your body is stressed when your blood pressure gets that low and can't find the blood sugar it needs. So probably what happened is you didn't have enough sleep, you were really stressed, you didn't eat enough at dinner, or you ate too early for dinner. You woke up, your blood sugar was really low on a day when your blood pressure was extremely low, and it dropped past 50 and you dropped.
Wow.
So he said, and it will happen again. So if you don't watch your blood sugar. And I said, do I need to check my blood sugar? He said, no, you need to check in with how you feel throughout the day. If you start feeling really sluggish, for you, it's your blood sugar. So you need to eat an apple, eat a piece of fruit, eat some nuts, a nut butter, something that has some natural sugar in it. And he said, before you go to bed at night, eat a tablespoon of peanut butter. Just to get a spoonful of peanut butter. That's protein with sugar in it. So it'll help you when you wake up, have your blood sugar not be so low.
Wow.
So that's what he believes that's what it is. Because he was like, everything in your body is completely healthy. There is nothing going on from your head to your feet. He checked my pulse and my ankles. He ultrasounded my veins in my ankles, in my stomach, in my neck.
Good.
He was like, this is what it is. It's the combination of you losing weight too fast for your own body.
Because you weren't obese to begin with.
I wasn't obese to begin with.
Because you weren't unhealthy.
Because I wasn't, I was still in the range of normal for my age group.
Yeah.
My BMI was a little high, but my weight was normal, right? My BMI was like 23%. And for my age, it should be between 18 and 22. So it's just a teeny bit high. And so he said, your body just hasn't figured out how to replace that sugar that it was getting out of that fat that you removed quickly. Wow. If you'd removed it over a year, your body would have adjusted over that year, and you probably would never have had this happen. But I was like, should I gain some weight back? And he said, no, the health issues that come with being 20 pounds overweight far outweigh your drop in blood sugar. This is about regulating your blood sugar. That's easy. You do that with food. Food and sleep. Food and sleep. Make sure you get a good night's sleep. Make sure you eat healthy food. And make sure when you start feeling that drop in energy, you eat something. I was like, I thought it meant I was tired and I'd go to sleep. And I'd take a nap. And he said that may be true also. Eat an apple before you take the nap. Eat a handful of grapes, eat some strawberries, eat some nuts, and then go take the nap and let your body get some blood sugar. So
what can happen if you don't do that stuff?
That'll happen again.
You just keep passing out.
Yeah, he said it'll happen until my body normalizes this lack of fat. It had gotten really used to having that 20 pounds around. He said he called it reserves. He said your body works on a system of reserves. So you removed 20 pounds worth of reserves. So now it doesn't have that reserve. So now it doesn't know where to get it. So until you have to keep filling it. So it doesn't need to go into reserve.
Aren't our bodies incredible?
I was like, really? Do you really think that's what it is? He said, based on your blood pressure today, yeah. 90 over 54 is really low.
What was it when you went in after you collapsed?
110 over 65.
Okay.
So there was no reason for anybody to think this.
Interesting.
That wasn't low enough to matter.
And you hadn't eaten that day, right?
No.
Interesting. Wow. Our bodies adapt to this, to everything you do. It's just adapting. Yep,
constantly. And I'm far less stressed now than I was when I fell because I've been really conscious about managing what I do every day. And so I wonder if my blood pressure has lowered even more because I'm not stressed. So I go in and I was like, my husband says it's so low because I'm dead inside. And he was laughing. He was like, pretty much. I mean, you're pretty close. Once you dip into the 50 on that bottom, you're not in good shape. So yeah, you got to eat a little more sugar. I called Sandy and told her that. She was like, you're such a fucking bitch. Of course they tell you have to eat more sugar. Of course you have to eat more sugar. You're such an asshole. I was like, shut up. Now, of course, your cure is eat more pastries. I said, that's not what he said.
Yeah, eat junk food now. Now you get to eat junk food?
Right? No. Right? I was like, I asked if I need to put on weight. I said, I clearly still have weight on parts of my body that's fat. And my BMI is 22%. So even with all this weight loss, I only lost 1% of like fat. So clearly, but I don't know, that's your
body was just really used to that 1%, and it relied on it because you don't have a consistent eating schedule, and that's what it was doing.
Yeah, it was crazy. It was a delicious 1%.
Really interesting.
Isn't it fascinating? So I was glad to know there was some sort of answer. It's not the same as taking a test and saying you have blah, but it was like a fact-finding mission. And when he just started looking at last year's chart, last year's statistics, what's going on now, my blood pressure today, and just pieced it together. That's a really good doctor.
Yeah, definitely.
Put those pieces of the puzzle together, because I went in to see my regular doctor for my follow-up last week. 110 over 65, totally normal blood pressure. Nothing low, nothing big, but they're both like 10 points lower.
Wow.
So 20 points lower on the top and 10 points lower on the bottom. And then this doctor's like, time out. Time out.
Well, that's, I got to say, that's best case scenario, right?
Yeah. Eat more peanut butter.
Boom. Easy.
Make Sandy jealous.
Eat a lot of donuts in front of her.
You bitch. Of course you get to eat more sugar. He's so funny.
All right. What are we talking about today?
We are talking about, I'm excited about today. So these two gentlemen, David and Benny, I only have Benny as a guest, but they reached out to me and asked if they could be a guest on my podcast because they have this awesome app for parents. I love it. It's called Jassby, Jassby. Actually, let me take a moment and I will show you what it looks like on the App Store if my phone will cooperate. And it's not cooperating. Hold on. Jassby, Jassby. Okay. I don't know if you can see this, but it's got this little bitty butterfly. Can you see it? Jassby, Chores and Allowance app. Okay, so here's what I like about this app. I pay my kids an allowance. I have a philosophy about allowances. I believe that you get an allowance because you live in our house. And you get chores because you live in our house. So they're not connected. So I don't pay for chores. And my allowance is there because we make a living and we pass that down to you. They have to do chores because so do I. And so does everybody. So I don't want them to be in the habit of being paid for their chores. However, I'm shifting a little bit now that they're teenagers. But this app allows you to assign money to chores if that's what your family does. Assign a chore without money. Right now, it is a calendar-based per child assignment app for chores and your allowances. So my struggle with allowances was I paid my kids $20 a week, which meant I had to have $40 every Sunday, and I never have cash. So I kept forgetting to pay them their allowance. And this allows you to just set it up and it transfers to their Jassby account automatically. With this account, they can go online and make purchases through the Jassby app for things like Apple AirPods. They have connections to places where you can donate. So we always ask our children to set 10% of their allowance aside for donation. They also have a savings portion to this app. We ask our children to set 10% of their allowance aside for savings. So they put 10% in savings, 10% in donation, and the 80% is for them. They can do whatever you like. They can set this up with your grandparents. So if your grandmother who lives in Florida wants to give your daughter $100 for her birthday, she can send it through this app, and your daughter can use that herself to buy whatever she wants through the store. Coming soon, there's a debit card, which I think is amazing. It's a contactless debit card that's similar to Apple Pay. So your child can have their allowance on their phone and go to Starbucks and pay for their own coffee. I mean, that's how my kids use their allowance. I say, if we're all going to the movies as a family, I pay for the movies. If you're going to the movies with your friends, you pay for the movies with your allowance. Now, with Jassby, in the near future, they'll be able to do that. That's not quite ready yet. He said the next couple months. But you can go online to jassby.com and sign up for their debit card. When it's available, you'll be on the list to receive one. You can check out the app at jassby.com or just download it from the App Store. Benny was a pleasure to talk to. He had a wonderful backstory. He's one of those people that inspires me in that the path he started is not the path he continued. He started out as a lawyer and kept ending up in finance. From one way or another, he just kept ending up in finance and now finds himself here. And I love those kinds of stories. This was developed, I think, from his and David's want for children to have an open conversation about money and for parents to have an easy way to be accountable to their children for money. So it's easy to say, I'll pay you an allowance. But like I said, coming up with that $20 bill every week sucks. So this is an easy way for me to be a person of my word where money's concerned. And I think there's a lot of avenues for kids to learn about finances on this app. I really was very impressed. So I'm so grateful they reached out. I don't think I would have found this if they hadn't reached out to me. And now I want to tell everybody that gives their kids an allowance. I think this is amazing. And I've been doing like these manual charts in my kitchen for chores. And now I'm just going to set it up through this app. And the kid gets a notification on their phone saying, hey, time to feed the dogs. And I don't have to say it anymore. So I highly recommend it. I hope that you enjoy this episode with Benny. I wish David could have joined us as well, but hi to David from here. Jassby.com, Jassby on the App Store. I think we had a great conversation about money and kids. There's a lot more to this podcast than just talking about this app. So, but it's a free app. It's definitely worth checking out. Thank you for coming back every week. Thank you for supporting my friends. You can go to links to great things on the wifeotp.com website. I talked about last week with Jocelyn and Kirsten, their parenting series that they launched. And Wife of the Party has sponsored 2 scholarships. I know they've given one away. And so if you feel like you would like to do this program and it's just not something you can manage financially at this time, there is a link on there to check out a scholarship opportunity. I'm not sure how they give the scholarships. I'm out of that. I just paid for 2 people to take the class for this quarter. I'm going to do that every quarter. So I love it. So I know I talked about that last week, but I'm on week 2 and I love it. So if you're looking for some good 10-minute a week parenting advice, it's just awesome. So the link to that again is at wifeotp.com under the links to great things tab. And it'll say, I think, McDermott method on the link. It should be pretty easy to find. Thank you for supporting again, all my friends. And I don't know, I really love my podcast. I'm really proud of it. I think that we have talked about a lot of really important topics like money. Halston and I, before we did this intro, we're talking about how the money podcast helped him buy a car. And I think that's just so amazing. That's why I want to do this podcast. And so many people email to say, thank you so much for talking about your mom, or talking about money, or talking about parenting, or talking about having aging parents. I'm in the same situation. I think I just love talking about all these topics because I think they're all valuable and they're all part of the human experience. And thank you, everybody who's reached out and told me you enjoy it too. Hopefully, we'll have some great episodes coming up in the future. But today, enjoy my chat with Benny about the Jassby app.
Thank you.
Where are you in the world?
I'm in Massachusetts, in Littleton, Massachusetts, about an hour outside of Boston.
Oh, okay. You have an accent.
Yes, I was born and raised in Israel.
Oh, okay. Definitely not Boston.
No. I can maybe, park the car. I can do a little bit, but yeah, not natural. No.
How long have you lived in Massachusetts?
So I've been in the U.S. about 15 years, and in Massachusetts about a decade. We lived in California before, in Santa Clara.
Oh, you did?
Yes.
You like Boston better?
About 9-10 years ago.
Do you like Massachusetts better?
I do. Well, if you ask me in February when it snows and it's like minus 20, I probably curse and say otherwise. But like most of the year, yeah.
It's beautiful there. I've been to Boston once. I think that's the only place I've ever been to in Massachusetts, but I've driven through it on my way to New Hampshire. I think. I don't remember. I used to live in New York. I lived in New York for about 4 years when I was young.
And where are you now?
I'm in LA.
Oh.
I'm in California. Yes.
So I was in the other side of California, right? So I know it's very different. Yeah.
Yes. California is so different. Orange County is an hour from here, completely different than LA. It's an interesting, really diverse state in a lot of ways. I
know. My older brother actually lives in Orange County.
Oh, yeah?
Yes.
It's so clean down there. Orange County is so beautiful.
It is.
It's really
nice.
So
we used to, when I was in California, our yearly vacation was in San Diego, and we just used to drive.
Yeah.
And it's so beautiful, the entire, the scenic route. And
it is.
What is it? It's Route 1, I think.
Route 1? I think you're right. The PCH. Yeah. Yes.
So
Pacific Coast Highway. Yeah. It's gorgeous. Is David joining us, or is it just you and me?
Just me.
Oh,
you and I.
Okay, so you are a dad.
I am.
How many kids do you have?
I have 2 boys, Adam and Jonathan.
And how old are they?
10 and 12. Almost 10, almost 12.
Almost 10, almost 12.
So 10 next month and 12 in December.
That's the sweet spot.
Right?
That's the sweet spot from about 8 to 12. It's so nice and calm. And then you get teenagers and you think, what has possessed my people? This is not who I raised. This is not in our value system.
So I think my old one is getting there, but he's not there yet.
Not there yet.
Yes.
Enjoy it. So you have this app called Jassby.
Yes.
Is that right?
Completely.
Tell me about it, because you probably do a better job telling me about it than I would be describing it.
Yes. So, maybe is that okay if I tell you a little bit of my background and
everything? I want to know everything. Anything.
Everything about me. Yeah. So it's not only that I enjoy anything. It's not only that I enjoy talking about myself. It also it's relevant. So, I'm an attorney by profession. I always tell people, don't hold it against me. I haven't practiced.
I won't.
I haven't practiced in many, many years. But more than anything, I'm entrepreneur in my heart and soul. Right. So Jassby is my third company, and I had one when I was a kid in law school.
What was it?
What my first
What were
one?
your companies? Yeah.
So my first, when I was in law school, I always tell people I come from what you'd call humble beginnings, maybe.
Yeah.
So my dad was a police officer, and he passed away when I was relatively young. And my mom was a homemaker that never worked. And in law school, I needed to pay my own tuition and pay for stuff like food and a place to sleep. And so what I did is I was working as SATs and a GMAT teacher. And then
what teacher?
SATs and GMAT.
Oh, SAT. Oh, okay.
And in the mid-90s, the GMAT moved from being a pencil and paper to computer adaptive, what you call a CAT. And so a few friends of mine and myself, we started a company called TestWiz, and we developed some software and algorithm that would prepare students to do the GMAT not on a pencil and paper, but computer adaptive, which is a very different experience, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it does.
But that was my first foray into high tech and into startups. It was mostly kids playing. We raised a little bit of money, but it was very, very tiny and not significant. But it paid for about a year of law school, I think.
That's great.
That's not bad.
No.
And then I finished school. I went into practice and I actually practiced a few years. But so a lot of my practice was around high tech, was around investment, but also was around banking. So not core banking, not lending or banking regulations, but a lot of the peripheral. So for example, card processing, anti-fraud software, and those companies that we would represent would enter into agreements with banks, if that makes sense to you.
Yes, it does.
So I was always around. So for many years, let's say the very early 2000s, I was around banks and card processing and transactions and international transactions and all of those kinds of things. And so fintech and banking really drew me and were interesting for me. Fintech was my natural habitat. And then I joined a company that was a client, and I was, that was a company that was what we call a PSP, a payment service provider.
Okay.
And a payment service provider is a software company really that develops all kinds of software that's called a gateway that connects merchants to banks. So they would be enabling those merchants to accept credit cards and debit cards and all those kinds of transactions. And I worked there for a while, and then I think in 2006, we sold that company to one of our biggest clients, a NASDAQ traded company. And at that point in time, I'm already in the US, and I had, I was in Santa Clara and I was basically unemployed. So my wife was going to work every day, and I just, we sold the company, and I was bored and restless, and I needed to decide if I want to go being an attorney again, which I didn't. And the payments world really, spoke to me.
Right.
So in 2007, I decided to start a company called Credorax. And this is a global acquiring banking platform, which sounds, I know, like Chinese, but what it means is that we developed, again, this technology platform in-house developed that lets you run credit card, debit card, all kinds of transactions.
Okay.
On the other side, we have bank licenses in, I want to say about 30 countries. I think it's 29, but I don't remember. It doesn't matter. So today the company is about 300 people. We process in 30 countries. We hold bank licenses in 30 countries. We process for some 6,000 merchants. We do about $8 billion a year.
Wow.
It's a nice company. I ran it until 2016. Today, I'm the chairman of the board. I'm still heavily involved. But what it made me all this time, again, is like this payments geek, if you will. Right? So I'm not a technology person, obviously, but I understand the ecosystem and the players involved and how everything works, at least in the Western Hemisphere.
Right.
So throughout all this period, it's funny, my wife and I was just talking about this a week or two ago, that my older son, Adam, who is almost 12, when a few weeks after he was born, I had a major business travel overseas to really launch the business of Credorax. I mean, it was started about a year before, but like it really started to really form about the time when he was born, and I left my wife with a newborn, maybe 3 weeks old, for about 10 days or 2 weeks and something like that. So we talked about it, that, like how time flies, how quickly time passes. And so my kids were born into my Credorax experience. And for, when they were growing up, I ran a small bank, and a bank that's not a regular bank, but that was dealing with mostly credit cards and debit cards. So in Credorax, we deal only with corporations. We don't have branches. You can't walk in and open an account.
Right.
We only work with corporations, and we deal mostly with their credit card, debit card, and other transactions. And then we give them additional bank services as well, but nothing to the public. That makes sense.
Yes, it does.
So our business was always very specific and not always easy to explain, if that makes sense. And over the years, I started, when people were asking me what it is that I do, friends, neighbors, I had some vague sentences like I run a credit card processing company, or I run a small bank, or something like that. And one of the things that were so interesting to me is not only within my family, with my kids as they grew up and became a little bit more, understanding, but also with everybody, with my community, society, is how fascinating and fascinated everybody is with money and with cards and with banks. But at the same time, how little they know about it.
Oh, and that's the truth.
They speak about it.
Yeah.
It's one of those life mysteries,
Yes.
And whenever I would tell somebody that I work for a credit card processing company, I would immediately, it became like I would joke, my wife and I would go out someplace and meet friends or go to a party or I don't know what. And if there was somebody that I didn't know and I said I run a credit card processing company, I immediately got 5 questions about credit cards.
Yeah.
And it can be from personal experience. I had this fraud thing and my card was canceled and they sent me a new one. And how does that happen? Right? Like you get tons of questions.
I'm sure.
And the second thing, is so as my kids starting again, they started growing up, and we come from a very diverse family, and I have, my older brother lives in Orange County, where I said before, and my wife's brother lives in Seattle, but we have relatives in Israel, and so like we're all over the place.
Yeah.
But even the family that we have in the United States are far away, right? So we're in Massachusetts, and they're in Washington State and in California. So I started noticing again when we speak about money and there's a birthday coming. So my brother or my brother-in-law would send the kids a check. Like, what would a 9-year-old do with a check?
Yeah.
Not a lot, right? But the check was in their name, so I couldn't deposit it.
Right.
So mostly it was just sit there on the table and I would give the kids whatever amount of money. But then, like a month or two later, somebody would call me and say, hey, why don't you never deposit the check? Like, because they'll be insulted. Like, listen, man, like, what am I supposed to do with it? And then
Right.
we have grandparents that live abroad, or again, doesn't matter. Like the whole thing, holiday season and Christmas and birthdays and whatnot. Or even when I wanted to give my kids allowance or reward them for something good that they did around the house, how do I do it?
Right.
So
especially because now no one has cash.
So
no one carries cash. So
still in my Credorax days, I used to travel like crazy. We have offices in many places. I can't remember, six different countries, something like that. And I used to travel like crazy. And when Adam was, 7-year-old, something like that, 8, I don't remember. We did a deal in which I give them, both of them. So his younger brother always gets the benefit. I cut the deal with the older one, and then he gets, because it's not fair not to give him to.
Yeah.
So every Sunday morning would be allowance day. And I would give them a few dollars. So I think maybe he was in first grade, so probably 6, right? And we started off at first grade, and I told each one of them that I'll give them $3 every Sunday. And they can, do whatever they want with it. And then it worked for a while. And then, I don't know, like I just, I forgot. I was on a trip and I came back and then I was on another trip and I was tired and I had the flu. So I think for about 3, maybe 4 weeks, I just forgot. I think one time I didn't have $3 because it became a nuisance for me.
Yes.
Because I needed to have cash and I needed $3. And where would I get $3? So I would go, I take a 10 and ask somebody on the bus stop to change the money for me. Anyway, so after 3 or 4 weeks, I remembered that, like, oh my God, I didn't it's not good, right? Like, you're a parent, you want to set an example, you do what you say you're going to do.
Yes.
And I went to Adam and I told him, listen, man, like, I'm so sorry. I completely forgot. And I'm going to pay you back. Don't worry about it. And I apologized. And he was very nonchalant and he said, yeah, no problem. I know you're busy. He was very gentleman about this.
Yeah.
But then I asked him, but I tell him, listen, man, like, why didn't you tell me? Because it's not like he came and said, hey, Dad, he just ignored it.
Yeah.
And he just, he shrugged and said, I don't know, I forgot as well. And I said, okay, he's young, so it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Then the same summer, I think my brother came to visit and he gave him, both of them, an iTunes gift card. So they would have an iPad mini that they played with, they shared. Mm-hmm. And he gave them, I don't remember, $25, something like that, iTunes gift cards so they can buy games.
Right.
And I'm telling you that if I would wake either one of them up, and they were, again, like, Adam was 6, maybe 7, so Jonathan was 5.
Right.
If I would wake them up in the middle of the night and ask them exactly how much money you have left on this iTunes card, like at 1 a.m. in the morning, they would know like that to the cent.
Right.
And that, it dawned on me that the money that I give them, the $3, is not real. It's useless. It's cash. They don't care about it because there is very little that they can do with it.
Right.
The iTunes cards is real money. It has real value in their world, in their eyes.
Yeah.
Everything is through the mobile. Everything is through the iPad.
Right. There's a 1-to-1 for them for that, because for cash, it's too abstract. Got it.
So it's the opposite, I think, experience than what we have.
Absolutely.
I think for me, until today, cash that I can feel, I can feel. Yeah. And then everything else is just like bits in the cloud. For them, it's the opposite. The bits in the cloud are real. Right?
That's really fascinating. I hadn't thought about that. I think you're absolutely right. Yeah.
And then, if you think about it, so I started thinking about this. And, in my world, again, the banking world, I don't know if you know this, but the vast, vast majority of money in the world doesn't exist.
Right.
Right?
I kind of know that. I'm not obviously in the world of finance, but I was like, there's not a dollar for every dollar that person says they have.
But it's not only that there's no dollar for any dollar, there's not even gold. There is nothing.
Yeah, there's nothing. Yes.
Yes. So like, I don't remember the exact percentage, but well above 80%, maybe even above 85% of the money in the world don't exist. Those are bytes in the computer in the cloud. They just don't exist.
Right? It's something we agree on.
Exactly. Well, the whole concept of money is something we agree on, right? Because like it's a piece of paper or cloth that's colored in green, and we agree that it has value. But we've taken it in the 20th century to the next level, right? So in 73, something like that, I think it was Nixon that says that we separate from the gold standard. Mm-hmm. And then when computers came on board, then it completely went, the separation was completed. So there are bits and bytes on the computer somewhere in the cloud. Yeah. There is nothing physical that matches anything there. And we just agree that that's valuable and that's it.
Right.
And to our kids, that's the only world that they know.
Right. It's true. Yeah. I had not thought of it that way, but you're right. Yeah. That's right. So,
I was talking to my kids about money all the time, but one of the things that I started noticing, and, I grew up in a different country. So for me, sending them through the system to the schools was, it's an interesting experience because it's almost the same, but there's some differences. But one of the things that I learned is that nobody talks about money. So most people don't talk about money. They don't talk about money in their families, and they don't talk about money at school.
No, they don't.
So we are raising generations now. It's not only our kids. I think it's going on for probably 15, 20 years of people that nobody ever
That's
talk
right.
about money ever. It's a taboo. Doesn't exist.
Which is so dumb.
Completely.
I mean, it's really dumb. I am a Girl Scout troop leader, and I have girls from 7th grade through 11th grade. So in the older girls, my co-leader and I were like, why don't they talk about money? They're about to be adults. They don't have any badges about, hey, here's how you write a budget. They do, but it's in the very last age group. It's in the 11th and 12th graders only. And I thought, why can't a younger kid just learn about a budget? I mean, things build. One thing builds on another. You're going to throw them into the world, not understanding any piece about anything. So she and I made up this 5-lesson series about money. One about budgeting, one about credit, one about just documents you need to know how to fill out. Like, how do you fill out? How do you fill out a loan application? How do you go to a car dealership and fill out that loan application? How do you balance your checkbook? Because you don't have to do that anymore. We had to sit down with pencil and paper and physically balance our checkbook with math. And now they just go click, 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 click. It's all there. If they even do that.
Probably not.
I just can't believe it doesn't exist in public education. It should. Doesn't.
So I think the vast majority of states, I think some states, but very few, probably 9 out of the 50, have some sort of what they call financial literacy or some sort of finance-related, program in school. Vast majority of states do not.
No, it's not in California.
Yeah, for sure. Not in Massachusetts. Most places don't, and it's a taboo. So nobody ever talks about it. So we go back to so I couldn't agree more with what you said. I feel like
I'm very passionate about that too, because I feel like, how do you learn about something if you don't talk about it? And it applies to so many subjects, not just money, marriage, sex, money, drugs. If you don't talk about it, how are you supposed to learn about it? You're not. Then it's like this taboo thing, like you say, which for some people is so alluring or terrifying. And it's just, money is part of life. And
not only talk about it, but also act it out. Right?
Yeah.
So, I still haven't told you what Jassby does, and I'll get into it.
I know what Jassby does. I'm on it. But I want you to tell me what Jassby does.
So we'll go back to that point about acting out, not only talking.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So what Jassby is a mobile money app for families and kids. And what we do is we connect right now 3 generations. Our plan is towards the end of the year to open it up for more, but we connect right now kids, parents, and grandparents.
Okay. I didn't know you had grandparents on there.
Yes. So there's a grandparent functionality there.
People can see what it looks like.
And the idea is that the adults would give money to kids, immediate real time in a digital form. So they give money the way that kids live through their phone and through the digital world.
Yes.
And then the kids can do one of 3 things. They can save. They can do good. We work with a list of nationwide charity organizations, from American Cancer Society to Girls Who Code to so on and so forth. And the third thing is spend. And they can do spend in 2 different ways. So one, they can do spend in-app. We have what we call the Jassby Mall or the Jassby Store. And we have thousands of products and growing every day. We work with known brands. And you can buy video games for all the major platforms, Nintendo, PlayStation.
Karaoke microphones? Just saying. Karaoke microphones? Just saying.
Yes, actually, yes.
Yes, I know. I'm on the
cameras.
app.
Oh, you bought one? Great.
Yeah.
So, some fashion, some bracelets. You can buy electronics, Apple AirPods, T-shirts, hats, like whatever kids like, right? So that's one avenue. The other avenue is probably by the time this air, right? It takes some time to air, right?
It'll air on Thursday, so.
So if it airs on Thursday, then not yet. But we're launching in a few weeks the Jassby debit card for kids.
Oh, that was my question. I'm glad.
Yes, ma'am. So it's a virtual debit card, no plastic. The plastic is a thing of the past.
Right.
So there's no use of giving a kid a plastic thing. Plus, they'll probably lose it like within 72 hours. So it's virtual. It works online and anywhere that Apple Pay is being accepted, and towards the end of the year, Google Pay as well.
That's awesome.
So you can't lose it, because no kid ever loses their phone. That if there's anything that you can be certain
that
of,
thing will be in 18 pieces and they'll have it in their hand. Yeah.
So it's a virtual debit card, and they can then buy, anywhere that online or offline in stores that accepts Apple Pay, which today is almost everywhere.
Yes, it is.
So this is what we do. There's another important aspect that what you can do right now, if this airs on Thursday, is that if you go to jassby.com, and Jassby is spelled Jassby, you can sign up for our wait list and be the first one to get that debit card when it launches, probably in about a month time, something like that, 3-4 weeks. But you can sign up for this right now.
Great.
And you get all kinds of perks if you sign up early. And then we also, at the same time that we're launching the card, we're also going to launch, we're still debating the name, but I call it for now the Jassby Financial Wellness Plan. So it sounds long and cheesy, so let me break it down for you for a second. Because I don't want it to be cheesy. So what we want to do is we want to create for you and with you, the family, for the parents and for the kids, this little path that hopefully would help you through your life, but especially, in the younger ages, and go with you and educate you, but more through life experiences than through boring quizzes and lectures, or nothing like that. Mm-hmm. But it would give you a few things that if you do them, and we think everybody can do them, you don't have to be rich, you don't have to be something, I don't know, upper class or anything like that. Anybody that can afford a phone can afford to do that, right?
Yes.
Okay. So we will help you set up this financial path that when, depends on your age, obviously, but when you're 15, 16, don't wait until 11th grade. You've already been doing this for a few years, and your level of understanding and experience of what money is and how it behaves and how the real world behaves will be so much better than your peers.
Right.
So let me go back maybe to this point that we started talking about acting out and not just speaking.
Right.
So
okay.
I'm a big believer in, when you learn something, and when young kids play, they play first, they act out the game, and oftentimes then they invent the rules, or they can speak the rules. So I remember when my kids were really young, like 4, something like that, I sometimes would watch them play with their friends, and if you ask them, so what are the rules of the game? It won't be easy for them to articulate it.
Right, yeah.
But they know what it is. They know enough about it to play it.
Yes.
And I think that's very deep in human psyche, in human psychology.
Sure.
So act, and then it becomes part of your subconscious. So, both my kids, they do martial arts. One does karate, one does taekwondo, but never mind. So when you start learning your kata or your form, you think about every step, right? You move your hand like this and the other hand like that, and your foot and your this and that, and your elbow. And it's very slow and a little bit cumbersome because you need to consciously think about every step, every inch, every movement.
Right.
You do it again and again and again, you stop thinking about it, right? It's
automatic. Yeah, it's automatic. Mm-hmm.
It's automatic, and it goes into your subconscious level.
Yes.
And the easier and the earlier in age that you learn, the more natural it becomes to you.
That's great.
So money is the same thing, and life experience is the same thing.
So funny. I thought about that with sports. My husband played tennis from a really young age, played baseball from a really young age, played golf from really young. That dude can pick up any racket of any kind and be pretty good at that sport right away. And I think about that with sport, with athletics. But I'd never thought about that with money in that way. Yeah, it's for everything, for your compassion, your mental health, for everything. Yeah, that's true. I've never thought about it for money, though. That's really smart.
So I don't think, like, if you ask me, should I talk about money to my 3-year-old? Probably not.
It'll be lost.
first, second grade, for sure. And third grade and above, for sure. And again, adapt it obviously to the age of your kid.
Yeah,
but
right.
You don't have to wait until they're teenagers, and it starts small. And one of the big things that we're going to do with this financial wellness plan. So again, my aim, my philosophy is not to make it about us, right?
Right.
So again, obviously we're a business and we're going to talk about how we make money and why. But before that, I just want people to really get it. So for example, we're going to do little challenges. And one of the challenges would be, for example, I don't know, once every 2 weeks as a kid, go to the supermarket and buy milk. Right? So I don't care. Milk costs like $3. I don't know. Depends on the size and the brand.
Depends on where you live.
I don't. Yeah, I should have found out before I said
Out
that.
here it's $6, but yeah, $3 in some places for sure.
a small carton.
Okay.
So $5. Let's set on $5. So the reason I want them to do this is not because I want the $5 spent on the debit card. You understand that that's meaningless. Even if you multiply it by 200,000 kids, that's still not a large amount. The reason I want that is because it makes the kid. So again, don't send your first grader alone to the supermarket. But again, a 10-year-old and 11-year-old, if you live relatively close by, or even drive them and sit in the parking lot and tell them, "Hey, go in," so they can definitely buy a carton of milk, right? A gallon.
Absolutely.
And then there are a few things that happen. So one, they need to go in and find the damn milk and look at the expiration date, and then take it to the checkout person, and then pay and understand how much it costs. And if they have their debit card, the Jassby debit card, they can pay with that, with their phone.
Right.
So it's a real life experience on how this works.
Right. Yeah.
And you do it again and again, and you don't have those awkward situation in which you have a 19-year-old for the first time of his life. He goes to college and he's like, "What? I need to buy bread?"
Exactly. How does that happen?
How does that work? So those little life experiences. A second thing is we say, set up an automatic allowance. Again, it could be $1. I don't care. Pay whatever you want, whatever works for your family, but set it up. Set up chores, and we'll monitor for you if your kids actually do those chores. So it doesn't have to be 100%. But let's say you have at least one chore a week and you, in the last 2 months, did at least 80% of them. It's okay from time to time you forget. But are you somebody that goes through, and fulfill his duties? Those little things. Yeah. Those little things become habit, and then they become part of your subconscious, and then you know about them. So I'll give you another example. We have a feature that we're working on right now that we call it a family loan. So I do it with my kids all the time. Let's say they have $40. A Nintendo video game costs normally about $60, if the new fancy ones. So let's say they have $40 and they really want the new game. Yeah. So they come to me and say, "Hey, can you give us 20? And one way is to say no, or to say yes if you want to be nice. But there is a third way, and that's to say, "I'll give you the 20, but you have to pay it back." Right. And pay it back with 5% interest. So it's not because I care about the dollar, right? But because it forces them to say, "So wait, like, how much do I have to give you back?" So I tell them $21. And they say, "Why? But that's like, you only give me 20. I say, "Listen, it's your choice. You can wait and buy the game in another month or two and you save another $20. That's perfectly fine. But if you want it right now, the price you pay is that it costs you another $1. So now it's your choice. Do you want or don't want?" Right. But now they understand what it is, and vice versa, right? So open a little, in your app, there's a little section there that's savings. And if you keep the money there, then we'll pay you $1, right? Again, I'm making up the numbers. But what you want to, but what you want to do is you want to teach the kids what interest is, and then you want to tell them that interest goes both ways. If you take the money, then you owe more, and interest is against you. Right. But if you have the money and you save it, or you invest it, or you do something positive with it, then interest is your friend, and you're going to get more. So then the app, this is 10, 11, 12.
So does this app, you're saying Jassby tracks their savings and pays them interest?
So, yes, the interest is something that is coming soon. I don't know if we're going to. So there are a lot of legalities around this. I don't know if we're going to call it interest exactly, but this is, and I hope I'm going to get in trouble, but this is exactly what it is. So we'll tell you, listen, if you keep money in this savings section and you don't spend it for 90 days, you'll get an extra $2.
Awesome.
Right?
That's awesome.
Again, and of course, a kid who is in his teen or even early teen or tweens, they completely get it.
Oh, totally get it. Yeah.
Totally get it.
Yes.
So it's not, you hear, I tell you something, I stepped down from being the day-to-day CEO of CreditRocks and moving to a more supervisory role in first quarter of 2016. Mm-hmm. And I started Jassby in the second half of 2017. And in that period of about a year in between, 5 quarters, I played some golf, but I also did some consulting. And one of the projects that I did was with the local university, a very, very nice university, very well known in Massachusetts. And one of the things I was talking to them about is there was this project that they wanted to start, which was a combination. It was the FinTech Center or something like that. I think it was called the FinTech Center. And it was a cooperation between law school and business school. Mm. And I was trying to help them put this together. And one of the things that I heard from the law school professors is when it's for a while now. It's not just like, last year or 5 years. It's going for a while. Then when they teach banking laws, they started needing to do like an intro class or two.
Oh my goodness.
Because people don't know anything.
They're lost, yeah.
But what interest is, why it's not a good idea to only pay minimum payments on your credit cards, right? So you have our best and brightest, 20, 21-year-olds going into law school in a really top-notch university, and they're like, interest? But it's not their fault.
No, it's not their fault. No. I had a class in high school it was called Basic Math. I don't know why it was called Basic Math, because it wasn't adding and subtracting. But my high school had a lot of young adults who went to vocational school during high school hours. It was for those kids who were going to go straight into the workforce as a skilled laborer, as opposed to people who were going to college. So I had taken all the classes I could in high school, and I took this class. It was probably the most important class I took, because that is the class that said, here's what an interest rate is. Here's how you file your taxes. Here's how you fill out a loan application. This is what interest on a credit card means. This is what interest on a CD is versus a savings loan, a savings account versus it was just one of the most valuable classes. I don't know whose big brain thought it was a good idea to stop teaching that. But I am not surprised that this group of probably very elite brain young people had no idea. My kids in my Girl Scout troop, no idea what an interest, no idea. And it was actually really hard for them to wrap their head around.
So the earlier you teach it,
the easier.
So I can tell you, again, I have like silly stories, and I think both of my kids are going to be angry, but
that's your job, to tell silly stories that make your kids.
I'll tell you 2 things. And again, it's like it's something I believe strongly. If you lecture them, right? If you say, hey, Adam, Jonathan, listen, today we're going to talk about 10 seconds, their eyes glazed and they're like, get out of it.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
So I tell you 2 things. One, my Adam wanted for a while, so he had a project and he wanted Apple AirPods. And he saved his money for them, and it's cost like $150, $160. I think he got it on sale for $150, $140, something like that. But that's a large amount of money.
Yes, it is.
So he worked months for this. Mm-hmm. But when he bought it, until today, that was like a year ago, something like that, that's his most prized possession because he bought it.
Yeah.
But second, when you buy any expensive electronics, you sometimes get like, do you want to add whatever amount of $15
Apple
and
Care.
protect it?
Yeah.
So he never heard about this. So he was about to buy those AirPods, And then this thing popped out. And he came and said, Dad, look, I'm going to buy it, but this is an extra $20. And do I need it? So I told him, let's talk about it. Do you plan on taking this out of the house or not? Are you going to visit your friends? You're going to take it in your pocket, or it's only in the house? How careful are you going to be with this? Like, you know yourself, are you going to break it or not? How difficult it is going to be for you if you break it to save from start again, buy a new pair. And, think about all those things and then decide you want to spend an extra 20 or not.
Right.
So we had to have a discussion about insurance in which he was completely mesmerized and completely interested.
Sure.
Because it was about something that he needed right now, about something that he really wanted, not some stupid thing that Dad says. Right.
Or some conceptual thing they can't wrap their head around. Yeah, it was something that was valuable.
Yes.
They valued,
Yes. So those, and there's tons of, I some interesting statistics I read, I think about a year ago, maybe two now. There was a very large survey done with, I think, 4,000 millennials, something like that, across the United States. And you had some 70% say that they prefer to go to the dentist over their bank.
What?
Or maybe prefer is the wrong word, but if they had to choose among horrible things that they have to do today, they would rather go to the dentist than go to the bank.
That speaks volumes, right?
There was another interesting thing that I don't remember if it was the same survey or something else, but again, done across thousands of young adults, I think between the ages of 18 and 25, in which they asked them very, very basic, read an invoice, read a salary slip, and then was, I think there are three questions, and the third one was something like, and I'm making this up obviously, you took $1,000 loan and the APR was 19% in a year, how much do you owe? And again, staggering, I think 65, 70%, something 2/3 of the people couldn't answer.
Right.
So it all goes back to the same thing, you start teaching those things small and not as lectures and quizzes and all those stupid things. Give them the opportunity to use their own money because they have the money anyway. An average teenager in the United States spends about $3,000 a year.
Really?
Yes.
Kind
so
of a lot.
It varies. It's between $2,600 and $3,000, and that's on average. So obviously there are those who don't spend at all and those who spend $5,000, but the average is about $2,600 to $3,000. And again, that's a lot of money.
Yeah.
So, and by the way, about 40% of it is on food. The rest is the rest. But they spend this money anyway.
Yeah.
So let's recognize that this happens and now help them do it in a more meaningful way. And while teaching them something in the middle, not again by boring lectures, but by actually doing.
Yes.
Right? This is how humans learn.
It is. And when you put it on an app, you really are giving it all to them. Really.
Give it all to them.
They can monitor their own money. They can monitor their savings. It looks to me like they can choose who they want to donate to if they wanted to give it to someone. That's something that's always been, we've given our kids allowance for years. Our philosophy in our house is you do chores because you live here, not for money. I don't make money from washing dishes. Neither do you. Yes. But you get an allowance because you live here, because we make a living and we pass that living down to you. So we've kept them very separated. So you get your $20 whether or not you do chores. You do chores because you are a responsible person within the context of our household. That's how we've done it. But we've also said, take your allowance. I've always paid them $20 a week, which is a lot. But I did that on purpose because Bert and I said, I give them a 10, a 5, and 5 ones so that they can put 10% in a jar for savings, 10% in a jar for giving, and the rest of it they can do whatever they want with. So then every year around their birthday, they take the giving and donate it to whatever they want. But let me tell you how hard it is to come up with 2 10s, 2 5s, and 10 1s every week. I hate it. I'm like, oh my God. I usually go to the bank and go, I'll have $100 in ones, $100 in 10s, and I put it in a box and dole it out every week. This is so much better. So much better.
You know what was the thing that broke me about the cash? It's not even just the hassle, but then let's say again, they wanted something, a video game. So they would come to me with those like 1s and 5s and 10s that were all jammed into the piggy bank and were all like, looked horrible. And they would give it to me and say, can we use your credit card to buy the video game? And then I felt horrible because like I'm taking the money.
Oh, yeah. Right? I can see that. Well, I tell you though, now that my kids are older, and actually now that we're in COVID, I used to have a wonderful lady who would come in and help me clean one day a week. And when COVID happened, my husband is a hypochondriac at best. He's definitely really OCD. He's like, nobody in the house. No cleaning lady, no. So I've said, well, then we all have to clean together. But now that school's back, I don't feel right about piling cleaning onto them. So when I downloaded this app, I thought, okay, now I will start paying them for some chores. I'm not going to pay them to feed the dogs. We all feed the dogs. But I'll pay them to wash the car. I'll pay them to take out the garbage like for a full week. Totally. I'll pay you if you do the things that my cleaning lady used to help me with that took a lot of load off of me. If you have that initiative to just do that, I'll totally pay you for that. So I still have a hybrid model now in COVID where there's some chores you just do because you live here. And some
I love it. I love it. I think the hybrid model. So I tell you something. From what we see from our users, there is no right or wrong answer. So I tell you, in my household, we have the same philosophy, my wife and I, is that you get allowance because you get allowance, but you live here so you help us.
Right.
And we don't pay you individually.
Right.
But I know in many other households, people do the opposite and they say, okay, you feed the dogs. We have 3 dogs. And
we do too.
Yes. And feeding them is
an event.
It's a thing.
It's an event.
It's an event. So the kids actually do it every morning and they do it really great for a long time now. We don't even need to remind them. They just go down and the dogs know, by the way, so they wait at their door. So it doesn't matter. Anything works,
Right.
There's no right or wrong. As long as you give them a budget, as long as you give them money, as long as you trust them. And one of the things, by the way, that we kept debating inside in Jassby is how much. So there are parental controls, obviously, and you get notified when they buy something and all of those things. But we try to keep this, safety is important, but we don't want to interfere and we don't want to intervene and we don't want to replace parenting.
Sure.
You know what I mean? It's not. So we'll obviously not let the kids, if on the Jassby store, we don't sell anything that can be dangerous. Right? There are no knives.
Right.
Yeah. But if your kid is old enough to get a debit card, which I believe is around 12, 13.
Yes, I do too. Yeah.
Then in theory, they can go to, I don't know, to a supermarket, to Walmart or to anywhere and buy something that maybe you don't approve. But that's your job as a parent to tell them, hey, please don't do that.
Absolutely. It all goes back to your value system, right?
Completely. So it's something that you need to discuss with your kid, but then give them the freedom. And one of the things, I quoted all of this horrible data about how kids these days and young adults don't know anything about anything. But there is plenty of data across, again, the Western Hemisphere, across decades, that shows that if you give kids some money, some freedom, and some guidance, they grow up to be so much better, more productive, more knowledgeable adults than otherwise. And I think, I always, talk to my wife, we talk to, in Jassby, we put so much effort and so much energy and so much thought about teaching our kids everything and sending them to college. And oftentimes, I think, are we doing them any good? Oh, sorry about that.
That's okay. Hey, my text messages have been going off like crazy, and I've turned them off. I don't know why. I turned them off before we started.
That's my home phone that doesn't work and nobody ever uses it, and I don't even remember it. But the one time in a month. Anyway, so, and I often think that I don't even know if we're doing him any good. Like a lot of people would just assume that a kid needs to go to college, which I'm not against, but how much thought goes into this? How much money does it cost? What's the reward? What's the return on investment that they're gonna, have? So, how much college education costs today, like a 4-year? You end up going out with like what, $250,000 in student debt, something like that?
Something like that, depending on where you go to school. It's insane.
It can be much more. But
yes.
So again, it's to each his own, and everybody should make their own decision. But what if we put a little bit more effort when they're much younger, teaching them about money? Again, you start this when they're 8, 9, 10, 11, doesn't matter. And teaching them how it works, and again, how interest works, and how you save, and maybe how you invest, and maybe if you go feed the neighbor's dog. So I told you towards the end of the year, we now connect only the family, but we want to open it up. So if my kids, sometimes with my next door neighbors, they go on vacation, they have 2 cats, and they go feed them and get some money for it. So pay them on Jassby.
Sure.
And again, your money would grow.
Right.
And think about it. I don't know, if you're 15, 16 in most states, I think it is, get an after-school job in, checkout person in a local supermarket, in Lucky Supermarket in California, and Market Basket here in Massachusetts, or wherever it is that you do, whatever it is that you do, and deposit your paycheck into Jassby and earn some interest on that.
Right.
And see your money grows. And who said that, at 18, if you take all this money that you're going to spend on college and put it on a down payment for a little apartment and rent it out to somebody, where will you be at 25 compared if you have an asset, and if you had it for a number of years, and maybe you have through your mortgage, and maybe the rent covers your mortgage, and then you have an asset and you can leverage it for another asset? Where would you be compared to your peer that now just threw out $250,000 and have some worthless degree and gets minimum wage if he or she is lucky enough to even have a job?
It's very true. When like I said before, my high school, I graduated with 74 kids. I went to a very small town high school in rural Georgia. Not very many of us went to college. Most kids in my grade, maybe not most, a large percentage of kids in my grades went to vocational school and went into skilled labor jobs right after school. My boyfriend from high school I'm 50. I guess he's 51 or 52, is retiring because he decided he didn't want to go to college. He wanted to be an electrician, and became an electrician, became very good at his job, and clearly became a very good small business owner, ran his business wonderfully, and at 52 can retire. And I don't think that people present that to their children as a viable path to happiness, because really, he liked working with his hands. He was a problem solver. He was really smart. And that's what he really wanted to do. And wealth doesn't necessarily mean you're, Donald Trump. You're a big, wealthy, crazy mogul owning buildings everywhere. Maybe for some people, wealth is being financially secure, having retirement taken care of, being able to care for your family, being able to own a home. And for them, that is wealth. So I don't think that path is presented. The only path that's presented lately is you got to be a gazillionaire or you're a failure. You got to go to college or you're a failure. And it's just not true.
And exactly. And even if you want, again, I don't want it to sound like I'm against college, but I think, what I tell my kids, so I'll just tell you what we're discussing in my family. And I tell them, look, in my mind, and you do whatever you want, but in my mind, if you go to school, like university, college, and you go out with a profession, so you're an engineer, or you're a lawyer, or you're a doctor, something that without thinking immediately out the door, you know what your job application is going to be.
Right.
So you can do this. Right. You're a software developer, you'd go and do this, right?
Yes.
It's something super specific.
Yes.
That I get. Second, if you have this, I went to, I told you before, when I was in law school, I was teaching SATs. Mm-hmm. And we had this girl, this young woman with us, that she really wanted to be a doctor, like really. And she would do the SATs again and again and again. And you need to get, at least 30 years ago, you needed to get almost perfect score to get into med school. And she got near perfect, but like she missed it by 5. And she did it, I think, 8 times. Oh, she wanted to be a doctor.
Yeah.
So if you want to be a doctor, go for it.
Yeah.
But everything else, I don't think that the choice is between, hey, I'm going to be a plumber, not that there's anything wrong with it, or I'm going to be an engineer. And if you want to get additional education, go for it. This is 2020, almost 2021. Mm-hmm. You can get most of the education you want on YouTube, by the way.
Oh, yeah, totally.
Because who cares? And most of those graduation degrees are worthless anyway.
Yes.
And what I'm trying to say is that take all of this mental energy, and even if you decide at the end that this is what you want to do as a family, you want to send your kid to college, go for it, man. But at least at an earlier age, start having this discussion. What can we do at 15 to invest in something?
Right.
That no other 15-year-old does. And then when I'm 22 or 25, compare 10 years of investment is a lot.
Yes, it is.
How do you start teaching your kids to save? Because I tell you something, I think one of the reasons, so in my mind, there are 2 reasons why people and schools don't talk about money. And maybe I'm wrong, tell me what you think. So I think on a personal level, most of us feel that personally, we present a bad example. We don't save enough. We don't behave necessarily money smart enough. So there is like this insecurity inside us that says, well, I don't really do it, so I shouldn't be the one talking about this. And it doesn't matter if it's true or not. We still kind of feel like that.
Right. That's an interesting perspective. Huh.
And so again, this is just my guess.
Yeah, yeah.
And it's coming from just talking to people and from all sections and from all layers of society, if that makes sense to you. And I hear this again and again, like, who am I to say? Or people like laugh, like this awkward laugh that they do when they're embarrassed and say, I don't know enough about that.
Right.
But we don't need you to be a professor of economics. All we need you to do is say, hey, man, like I'm going to start saving. And start small. It doesn't have to be perfect. Start small. $1. Yep. Come on, you can't afford $1?
Yeah.
Do $1 a week for a month, 2 months, 3 months.
Yes.
After that, 2 to 5. Of course you can afford it, man. You just gave your son an iPhone. You can't afford $5, right?
You know what I thought about money? You can. When we were broke, we couldn't afford anything. We could barely buy groceries. I set up an automatic $25 a month transfer to my daughter's savings account when she was born, because I thought, I'm giving her $25 a month. If I start now, even if we can't afford to pay for her college, even if we're still this broke when she graduates high school, I will have something to give her and to say, go to school, do what you need with this, do what you can.
Teach them to do it.
Exactly.
Teach the kids.
Exactly.
Tell the kids, you save $1 a week. That's it.
Yep.
And then after a few months, do it. So I think that's why people feel that they are not doing what they should do, so they're kind of embarrassed. And
I think you're right.
And I think the schools don't teach it because money makes you talk about things that are not politically correct. The fact that not everybody has exactly the same, and people are different, and it's all those things that I think the system feels like they're safer not to touch.
That makes sense, yeah.
So it because everything is now around PC, then we can talk about this because it may lead to a subject that is not PC.
Right.
And then one of the most important things in life, we don't ever talk or teach our kids.
That's crazy.
So what I try to do, and again, I took all this 20 years that I've been doing this and everything that I've seen with my kids and people around me, is make it into something. So we help you. So even just downloading the app is something that starts a conversation.
Yeah.
Okay. So it's
It made my kids really excited. They got really excited for it. Because even though I pay them the cash, the cash liquidates. My 16-year-old is riding bikes and buying frozen yogurt, and all of a sudden she's got no more cash because it's not, like you said, it's kind of not real. So I was excited about this app, and I showed them, and they got super excited about their profile picture, which was so goofy. And then I was like, look, I'm going to pay you your allowance because it was yesterday. We also pay on Sundays. So I forgot yesterday. So I'm going to pay your allowance today. Oh my God, I got it right here. And look what you can do with it. But I think that's another part of money that people as adults don't do. So they don't do this with their children. At a certain point in mine and my husband's journey together with money, when we were first together, I don't know if you know anything about my husband. He's a stand-up comedian. And stand-ups are don't start off super wealthy. I mean, I was supporting us, and he was making like $500 a week, which in LA is not very much money. That might pay for groceries, maybe. But at a certain point, we challenged ourselves and said, how much can we save, and how can we watch it do something? So we almost separated our money that we planned on saving and ended up investing from our, like, this is what we need to live. And what we need to live, we were making, and our budget adjusted as that changed, and so did what we were saving and investing adjusted as our budget changed. But it became a challenge, and it became really fun, almost like a game, to see how much we could put away, how much we could put into our retirement, how can we maximize what we can put in that little bitty jar, so to speak, and then what do we get to do with that jar? Almost like it wasn't real money, because when it becomes real, you're so scared of losing it, especially when you don't have much of it. Then you're terrified to put that $25 a month aside because that's, I need that. But if you look at it a little differently, then your attitude about money in general becomes a lot more positive. And then I think if you can find a way, like your app, to have your kids look at it as, ooh, I can't wait to watch this grow. I can't wait to see what I'm going to do with this. Almost like it's like you're building something out of Legos instead of being afraid to take the Legos because you may take too many, or I'm not sure what I'm doing with them, or I know I want to build a skyscraper, but I don't know where to start. Well, you just start by just starting. You just start. And then
you don't wait for it to be perfect. It's
never going to be perfect.
Best is enemy of the good. You do something that's good, and then you make it better and better and better. It will never be perfect.
Wait, I like what you said. You said best is the enemy of good?
Yes. So it's my favorite motto. So I think oftentimes, when you start a company, it's difficult, and it's always difficult.
Yeah.
And even with a product, it's a never-ending series of improvements. Mm-hmm. And I find myself, by the way, always talking about the next feature. I think I even did this in our conversation. We're going to do this in another month, and this in 2 months.
Yes.
Because it's like, if you wait until something is absolutely perfect, so it's never going to happen.
Yes, it's very true.
Right.
Yes.
I love the saying, best is enemy of the good. So don't do something that's crappy.
I got to write that down.
Do something that's good, and then improve it, go with it, and try to make it perfect.
Is enemy
of the good.
I'm writing that down, and I'm sending that to my friend Kathy, who's been trying to come up with a name for her company for 1.5 years, and nothing is the best. So I'm gonna be calling her about that as soon as we're off the phone.
So I think, again, that's the thing. So make sure that you sign up for the debit card. By the way, how
I'm going to. So I have some questions about the app.
Yes.
Okay. So I'm new to it. I just signed up for it a couple days ago. Is there a way for me to put a list of chores with a value set, wash the cars, $40, and have my kids choose that?
Yes. Coming up.
That's not here yet.
It's not it. So,
okay, good. Because I was like, I'm missing it. I can only assign chores to each child. Is that right?
Yes. So yes, this is literally a few weeks. You're going to have, so we call it like it's Dave would have known. He has the name. I forgot. I tell you in a second. It's tip of my tongue and I forgot. But what it is, it's like a board, and you put chores.
Oh yeah.
And then the would pick off this. I want to do this and this and this and this.
Oh yeah, I love that.
Yes. Something with the board, like I forget. So yes.
Okay,
and
good.
By the way, for everybody who's listening and watching and everything, we know that we are far from perfect, but we're trying. We're doing updates every Tuesday, every second Tuesday, so every 2 weeks.
That's great.
Between Tuesday and Wednesday, depends on, Apple takes a day to approve usually, but something like that. It should go live every Tuesday, every other Tuesday.
Right.
And we so want to hear more of what people want, because we know that it works differently in every family. And again, most people are kind of doing things the same, but everybody has their little unique flavor.
Sure.
And for example, this little board of messaging board of chores is something that we heard from a lot of users. So we're implementing this. By the way, one of the, I think, upside of being a small startup, and we're still small. We have about 30 employees.
Mm-hmm.
We raised about $10 million so far.
That's great.
From various mostly Silicon Valley VCs. We have a bank partner that invested with us, Needham Bank. And we partnered with MasterCard. And so part of being a relatively small company is we have a very fast turnaround. So when we hear something that's cool, we just do it.
And make it happen.
Yeah, so we've had people suggest things to us, and we implemented it within less than 2 months, which again,
That's
it's very
great.
fast. Yeah.
Well, I'm excited for this chore board, but I have another question.
Board, something like that. Yeah.
What is a feature you feel like people don't set up and should? Is there one?
So, automatic allowance, I think it's like the number one thing that I would do.
Yep.
I would start up with setting a few chores, just to do it.
Mm-hmm.
I would definitely sign up for the waitlist for the debit card.
Yes.
Again, it sounds, obviously I'm promoting it, but also those things, they go in batches. So the more we know ahead of time, like, if you sign up,
yes,
guarantee that you're going to be at the first batch, so you can get it faster, and it will be free. It will be a no fee, especially if you sign up now.
Right.
So there's no reason not to try it. We're working very hard. It's difficult for me to give you an exact timeline, but we're working very hard on 2 features that both of them, the reason that there are third parties that need to approve it. It's not just us. Mm-hmm. So those 2 features are, one, small investments. So for example, and again, it's all a conversation starter. So I've been talking to my kids for a long time about the stock exchange, mm-hmm. NASDAQ, the Dow, S&P, and how it works, very high level, mm-hmm. and why you should or shouldn't do it, because obviously there is risk involved. So one of my dreams is that, and I tell you another thing, I have this personal policy that I only buy direct holdings in companies. I buy all kinds of financial, ETFs or all kinds of financial tools, but I would only buy a stock directly in a company, like a stock in Apple, mm-hmm. if I use them. So if I have an iPhone, I'll buy Apple. If I drink in Starbucks, I buy Starbucks. Right. If I don't use Facebook, I don't buy Facebook. But okay. So I have this dream of having like this little board with 15 names, not more, something that every kid knows. Yeah. Amazon, Facebook, Nike, Starbucks, Apple, Google.
Yeah.
Right. And that they can buy in whatever money they have. $50, they'll buy fractional shares, because I don't know, a Google stock is like above $1,000, right? Mm-hmm. But if you have 50, then you buy, I don't know, 1/20th of a share, whatever. Right. And then you see like how your portfolio.
I think that's awesome, because that is something, growing up so rural, I didn't even know what the stock market was, a place where you buy stock, but what stock? Livestock? Okay. But I was like, I don't know how this works. And the learning curve was steep because I was so much older by the time I got exposed to investing for my retirement. It was really about my retirement investment. And I think that's brilliant if you can introduce them to the stock market and have them see that grow or see it go down and watch it grow, because over time, it always grows over time. Completely. But it's scary. Sometimes it goes down. You're like, oh my gosh, I just lost all my money. And then it goes right back up. It's amazing.
And it's a good, again, opportunity to talk about it. And even by the way, if you don't feel, and again, I'm not trying, most of us are not Warren Buffett and we can't give, can't give stock advice, but it doesn't matter. It's something to talk about.
Sure.
Right? And it's something to, let's say there's a downward in the market and you say, the kid comes to you and say, oh my God, my $100 are now 70. So it doesn't matter. It's still a good conversation starter. And then if you don't know the answer, and maybe you can Google it together, maybe you can watch a YouTube together. It's all good.
It is all good.
The second thing that we're working on, which I think is a little closer, because the problem with investing in stock, by the way, is not that. Is exactly that problem that so many companies today, especially the ones that I've mentioned, the stock price is so high that if you want to buy one stock, you need $1,000.
Right.
And to have those fractional shares, it's not an easy thing to do. So we're working on it.
Right.
The second thing, and I think that's going to be a big hit, is something like a Venmo for kids.
Mm-hmm.
So we all know Venmo, but and we know the teenagers, or everybody knows the teenagers use Venmo, but not everybody does. And when they do, they actually break the user agreement. So Venmo does not allow you legally to sign up and use Venmo unless you're 18.
Oh, okay.
So if you're under 18 and you're doing it, so you're technically or not technically, you're breaking, the agreement that you signed with them. But also from time to time, they would do all kinds of checks. And, if they catch you, then it's, you lose your account.
Right.
But one of the things that we want, and again, it can also be beneficial for younger kids, is to do Venmo for kids, but do it, with consent. And the parents can say yes or no. Obviously, if they don't want this, you don't have to. Right. But it will be smaller amounts and a lot more supervised. But, my older son does karate, and normal days when it's no COVID, they would go sometimes after class across the street from the dojo. There's a pizza shop. Mm-hmm. So they would go and have a slice of pizza. And if I know that my son has those 6 friends that he goes with them, and why wouldn't, he pays for the pizza, and they each give him a little bit back, and I know who they are, right? So they're not strangers.
Yeah.
So this is something that will come soon. I would just tell you, set up automatic allowance, set up chores, and start trying to make sure that those chores get fulfilled. Right. So I think another part of it, so obviously if you give some monetary value to the chores, it helps. Yeah. But even regardless, I always try and tell my kids and my employees and everybody that's around me, if I say I do something, I do it.
Right.
And if I can't because of, I don't know, some force majeure, then I come and say, hey man, I'm so sorry. Here's why.
Yes.
Try to make up for it. But I just ignore it. I said I'm going to do something, but then, so don't. So if you say you're going to do the chore, you better do it, man. You do it.
Okay, I have 2 more questions. Can you set up a chore with no value?
Of course.
Okay. And the other question is, does this send out notifications? Does my kid get a ding saying you have a chore? They do?
Yes.
Oh, that's great.
Yes. So they need to enable it. So it's on iPhones, and iPhones, they do a lot about security and users security and all of this. So you need to allow notifications, like in any app. Yeah. You need to allow notifications. If you block it, obviously you won't.
Yeah. Right.
I would also, we're doing this debit cards, and in debit cards you can shop anywhere you want. But I would urge you to do 2 other things. So one, look at the list of charities that we work with. Mm-hmm. And again, there is a long list there. But if you want something added, then we're more than happy to do that.
Right.
Because it's charity, there are all kinds of rules around it. So we would have to check that this properly registered. There's a process around this.
Yes.
And sometimes with the very, very small local charities, it's a little bit more difficult, but mostly we can get it done.
Okay.
So if you have a charity that you feel strongly about and you want it added to the list, we're super happy to do that. So go check it out. And again, most of them, they have no limit. Some of them have like a $5 limit. Sometimes they have limits. The limits are not us. It's the charity. We don't say this. But even if there is a limit, it's usually pretty low. And, go check it out and you can do some good right away.
Yes.
And also, for the parents and grandparents. So we didn't talk so much about grandparents. And I'll tell you again, it's like for my family's experience. Grandparents, especially when they're far away, but also when the kids start to grow a little bit, it's difficult. It's getting more and more difficult for grandparents to know what to give for a birthday, what to buy for Christmas, like what do they want. And the Jassby app has, so we allow when you as a parent, when you build your family, or even after, if you go to settings, you can add another family member, and it asks you to choose his or her role in the family. So you can choose a parent, you can choose a kid, and you can choose a grandparent. So you can add your grandparents, the kids' grandparents, into the app, and then the grandparents can send money again for holidays, for birthdays, for whatever, and then they can watch and see what the kid did with that.
Oh, that's great. Oh, so they can see if they bought their Apple AirPods.
They bought this or that.
That's amazing.
Yeah. We're working on a wish list. So again, I hope for time for this Christmas. So the kid can say, hey, I want this bike. And the grandparent can buy the bike or say, it's too much, but here's $100 towards it.
Oh, that's great also. And if my daughter went to her grandmother's house and washed her car, can her grandmother then pay? Yes.
She can add the chore. And by the way, those chores, they go both ways. So the parent can or grandparent can suggest a chore, but also the kid can. So the kid can say, hey, I'm going to wash your car, Grandma, and that's going to cost you $10.
Oh,
Grandma says yes.
That's really smart. Yes. I like that.
You can even negotiate.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, so I wouldn't negotiate too hard with Grandma, but yeah.
They better not negotiate too hard with Grandma.
But yes, definitely. So again, we're always learning and love the feedback. And go to jassby.com and you can contact us. You can download it at the App Store. The app is free to use. Oh, that's something, by the way. We try to make sure that we make this free. And I know that a lot of people, so I don't remember who said it, but there's this saying that goes in the internet. I saw it in a few memes, that if something is free, then you are the product, or you are it's like it's you who's being sold. So it's not. The way we make money is so if we sell something to the Jassby store, then we make money like any store. And if you use our debit card, then we charge the merchants that you buy from, which is, again, it's industry standard.
Same as Visa, same as MasterCard.
Visa. Exactly.
Yes, the same.
So we work with MasterCard, and it's the normal MasterCard an issuing bank agreement, but that's why we don't need to charge you.
Right. Okay? Because when the debit card
we get paid by the merchants. So you are not the product, and we're not selling your data. Your data won't find itself in some Russian, I don't know. We're not Facebook, right? So don't.
Thank God.
So don't think about that, and how we make our money is through the merchants. This is why we can, and we decided to make this a free service. So there is almost no entry, something that prohibits you from doing this, even if it's just $2, right? So anybody can use it, anybody can apply it to it, and just start doing it.
Yeah, start doing it. I already started. I already set up my automatic allowance. I was looking for the chore board, so I didn't put the chore in the calendar, but I will until the chore board comes, because I think this is awesome. What I've been doing, Sunday's like my set up the weekday. So I plan my menu for the week so I can get all my groceries, and the girls trade off. We have 3 dogs, 2 chickens, and 1 cat. So one girl does 3 dogs, the other girl does the other 3, and they trade weeks because for some reason no one likes feeding the dogs. I don't know why. So I do this like spreadsheet of who does what week on what week of the month, and then I do the same thing where you set the table this week and you clear the table this week, and I'm just going to put it on the app. And they always say, whose turn is it? And I have to say, go over there and look on the clipboard. But is this ever out of their hand?
Never.
Never.
So do your dogs, they all eat the same food?
Yes, they do.
So we have 3 dogs and they have separate foods because one of them is a puppy, the other one is very senior, and the third one has some issue with his thyroid and he needs a special food. So we need to give them 3 separate types of food, well, not me, the kids. And then we need to make sure, because the minute you give them the food, they want the other dog's
food. Oh, same thing. It's like being a police officer.
Exactly.
I feel like I'm going, no, that's Mona's food. No, that's Izzy's food. No. Yeah. And they do that. I do the morning shift because getting out the door to school is too hectic. Before COVID it was anyway. And they do the night shift. So I cook dinner. They cook dinner for the dogs. But they hate it. And I'm like, it's your dogs too. I'm not,
It's completely remote in LA, right? School.
Yes. It's still 100% at home learning.
So we have here at least in our town, and I think most of Massachusetts, I'm not sure. But in our town, we have the hybrid model. Mm-hmm. They go to school 2 times a week and 3 times remote. But at least it's something.
I would love that because teenagers really need their friends.
Need outside, of course.
And they need their independence. They need some autonomy. They need to feel like they're in control of their life. And I feel like I try to stay out of their business as much as possible. But at the end of the day, we're all living in the same house. And there are some things we have to negotiate that they wouldn't have to negotiate at school.
It's been very difficult. So, my both of them do martial arts and they still do remotely, but that's kind of not the same.
No.
And football season, both of them play football, and football season was just canceled. And I was super disappointed because I actually coach and I tell them, but I'm looking forward to this even I think more than they do because it gives me quality time.
Yeah.
So that got canceled. So 2020 is difficult.
2020 has not been the most fun for sure, but I'm telling you, much improved by your app.
But I tell you another thing. One thing that I'm sure that would happen because of COVID. So the United States, and again in my other company, we work globally. Mm-hmm. And if you go payment technology wise, compared to Europe, for example, we're behind.
Yeah.
Right? So I don't know if you go to a restaurant in the US and you just give at the end, you give the service person, the waiter, the waitress, you give them their card and they go and do something with it in return. Europeans, they think we're insane. Right? So in Europe, it doesn't work like that. What they would do is that they would bring a small POS device, mm-hmm. like in the physical Apple stores where they have those little things.
Yeah.
They will bring it to your table. Mm-hmm. You would insert your credit card, you will key in a PIN, and he won't even look at you, and then the whole transaction is done.
Yes.
So it's not only that, but also contactless and cashless and all of those things across Europe is a lot more advanced. Percentage-wise, like how many merchants, how many supermarkets, how many everybody is accepting those kinds of, contactless payments. And we've already seen it this year that across the United States, because of COVID, so 2 things happen. So one, more and more people use Apple Pay and others. So they use the contactless, and also that more and more merchants, including smaller ones, started to accept those sorts of payments.
Which is great.
So my belief is this would have happened anyway, but that's surely accelerated this.
Yes.
And,
which is not a bad thing.
It's actually a good thing. It's a really good thing, but it also means that this phone that our 12-year-olds now have, and the average age, by the way, for a kid to have a phone in the United States is 12. It's when they get the first phone. Mm-hmm. So when our 12-year-old has this phone and they'll have the Jassby debit card on their phone, and on their Apple Pay or Google Pay, that means that they be really independent and they can go and use this almost anywhere, and it's very secure. You can't lose it. very difficult to commit fraud on this. Nothing is impossible, but it's very difficult.
Right.
Much safer than our, plastic cards.
Right.
So that means that, all of this is getting a huge push forward.
Right. I think it's great. I'm really excited.
This is a positive side effect, if that makes sense.
Yes. Yes. I was talking about Jassby also.
Oh, of course. Thank you.
It is great. I am really excited to put it to use because I was doing this in the old pen and paper form.
Old-fashioned way.
Dollar bills.
You've got an app for that now.
So much easier for me. Well, thank you for explaining all of this and walking me through it. And the backstory, it was all super interesting.
Thank you so much.
And I'll talk more about it in my intro after we say goodbye. Is there anything else you want to say before we leave? Go to jassby.com.
Go to jassby.com. My name is Benjamin Nachman. You can find me on LinkedIn if you want to say hi. BenjaminNachman.com. Well, not .com, just Benjamin Nachman on LinkedIn, and you'll see me.
And buy the app not buy the app. Download the app.
Download the app. It's free.
It's free.
Yeah.
And we set it up in maybe 3 minutes, maybe between the three of us, my two daughters and I. It took maybe 3 minutes. It was super fast.
It takes 2 to 3 minutes. It depends obviously on how many family members you're going to add.
Right.
But usually for 3 people, the average U.S. Family is 2 kids. So usually it's one of the parents and the 2 kids. It takes 2 to 3 minutes. We have you tell me if you like this. We have like an AI-led bot that kind of chats with you and asks you questions. Mm-hmm. The reason we need to do all of this is because we are very regulated. Obviously, we touch people's money. So it's not a video game that you can just, give a false email and some password. We need a few more details about you, but I think it's pretty painless.
It's pretty painless. And I think it's pretty brilliant. I'm glad you guys came up with it. Thank you so much for sharing it with me. I appreciate it. And thank you for your patience. I had to reschedule twice. So I apologize. But I'm glad we finally got to talk about it. Thank you so much, Benny.
Thank you, Leanne. It was a pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Thank you. Okay. Bye.